Hello, welcome to the E09 Show. I'm your host, John Malone, and in this episode I brought on Asperegoose and Faithy. And as for our guest, he's from Florida. He owns a family office-style wealth management firm. And oh boy, he also got quite vast knowledge about business, finance, and cryptocurrencies. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Bob DePasquale.
All
Hello.
right. Hey, fellas. How is everyone doing today?
I'm good.
Great.
Awesome.
So, how's life?
Life is great. I am blessed to be alive, gentlemen. I got a pretty deep story about this, actually. I almost lost my life when I was 18. So ever since then, whenever someone asks me that question, I tell them, great. Just the fact that it exists. So I'm happy to be here.
Okay, great.
That's great.
Have you been up to much recently?
Oh man, you should ask that to my wife or my family. Yes, I'd like to think I'm up to a lot. Maybe some could argue that I'm working really hard for nothing. But yeah, it just life. Like I said, because life is short and unforgiving at times, and also something that we should cherish. I try to do as many things as I can without burning myself out. So, you mentioned the business and the firm that my business partner and I own, working on that a lot. But I also, despite the pandemic, my wife and I love to travel and exercise. So yeah, we do a lot. We like to spread ourselves pretty wide. It's pretty eclectic lifestyle.
Great.
Yeah. That's great.
So tell me more about what you do.
All right, you mean like professionally, or what I do for fun, or everything? What do I need to narrow it down?
Either one will do.
All right, cool. Well, I'll start with what I do professionally, since you mentioned it. I spent about 12 years over in the States here on this side of the pond, working in the financial world, helping families and individuals with their personal finances. And then after about 12 years, my business partner and I said, you know what, we've learned some lessons doing this. We found the people that we love working with the most. That's generous families, people that have a purpose behind what they do. And we wanted to do something a little bit more focused on that. So now we own this firm. It's called Initiate Impact, and we work with generous families and help them manage their resources as best they can, so they can be really, really generous and support the causes that they care about. So that's my business. That's what we do. I spend a lot of time during the day working on that in between podcasts like this one. And then for fun, I mentioned a little bit earlier, I travel. My wife and I like I said, we like to exercise a lot. She's a marathon runner, so sometimes I'm chasing her around to different cities, watching her run marathons. But like to exercise myself as well. I'm also a sports nut. So I heard, John, you're from Manchester, so I'm guessing you're a world football fan. I do like soccer, as we call it over here. Also a big fan of American football too. So you can, especially during the season, you can catch me if I'm not out traveling somewhere. I'm probably sitting on the couch watching American football.
Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
So I want to. So you like help people with finances? Yeah, that's your business, yes.
Yes, sir. You got it.
And have you had any interesting cases? What kind of clients come to you in general?
Yeah, good question. So we for many years we worked with the working American professional, I would say, is probably a good way to describe it. People who work really hard for what they earn, and they want to be conservative and make sure that they can save their money and have a healthy retirement, and maybe leave a little bit for their family. And that was great work. We found that the people that we work with the best were high achieving business owner types who had something that really meant something to them beyond just the bottom line of their business or their job or whatever it is. And so now we work closely with families who they would consider themselves very, very well generous. They have resources, and it's money, but it's also influence, it's resources, it's knowledge, it's experience. And so the type of people that we work with are people that are super generous, people that want to give to other causes. I've been to various places throughout the world doing charitable work. I've had some amazing experiences and developed relationships with people who you might not think should be happy with their place in life. But to be honest with you, some of the people with the least possessions are the happiest people in life. And so you asked about the clients that we work with. We actually use the term partners. Nothing against the word clients. I mean,
Yeah.
That's a popular word. We all, anyone in business is familiar with the word client, so I don't criticize it. But we use the word partners because we really want to partner with the people that come to us. When they come to us and say, "Hey, I really care about this," we want to partner with them in that mission. So we use the term partners, and those type of people are people who come and say, Bob and Stacy, the name of my business partner, they say, we've worked really hard in our life. We want to make sure that the next generation we leave a great legacy for them, and we teach them to be good stewards of the resources. So I hope that describes it. I like to tell people sometimes it's probably easier to tell people who we don't work with than who we actually do work with.
Okay. So yeah, from what I got from that, like kind of upper middle class individuals. That's what I got from that. That's how I describe people like this, upper middle class.
Yeah, you know what? I would say that there's.
Got my mic sorted. Sorry, guys.
It's cool. It's cool.
No worries. I would say this. There's no. I don't know how it is over by you, but by us, there's different terms. There's, middle class, upper middle class. There's affluent. There's high net worth, ultra high net worth. Those type of people. And to be honest with you, we don't like to classify them by those terms because those generally mean the amount of money that you have, and why that absolutely is important. There has to be some level of complexity for it to be worth it to work with us and to pay us. But at the same time, some of the most generous people and some of the greatest relationships we have are people that may not be considered in that right bracket, if you will. So yeah, you're right. I mean, upper middle class is a term, but there's ultra high net worth people that have very, very complex situations, and so I don't want to leave out people on either end, to be honest with you, just because of the amount of money they have.
Yeah, that's understandable.
So, what else do you do in your free time?
Yeah, well, I told you I like to watch sports. I like to exercise. My wife and I volunteer quite a bit with. We mentor high school and college age students, and so we're pretty heavily involved in their lives. We don't have kids of our own. I mentioned about my experience when I was 18. Because of that experience, I'll be happy to talk about this too if you're curious. I don't want to beat around the bush, but I was sick, and as a result of that, I've been infertile. So we've been unable to have kids of our own, and so because of that, she's a kindergarten teacher, so she deals with young kids all the time, and so we've kind of taken it upon our own mission to help high school and college students kind of transition into adulthood. So we work a lot with them, and to be honest with you, they're really our friends. They keep us young, and so if it's not leisure time, it's probably spending time with them.
Okay, great. So, what knowledge do you have on cryptocurrencies?
Oh, wow. What knowledge? I would say I know just about everything you need to know about the basics of crypto, what it is, how it works, and the importance of that system in relation to the fiat system, which is our current monetary system in the world. I'm not a crypto. I wouldn't call myself an expert. I mean, I have to know what our partners and people and investors need to know about it in order to make smart decisions. I understand the ledger. I mean, basically, cryptocurrency in itself is digital money, and it's a digital ledger. If you ever balance a checkbook or went to the bank or looked at a bank statement, it's kind of like that in digital format. And the design behind it, specifically Bitcoin. I mean, there's been over 1,000 coins in existence, but specifically Bitcoin is designed to be a decentralized way of running the money system, so that there's no authority that can make swooping changes. For example, as the Federal Reserve is supposed to do today here stateside. So yeah, I know a bunch about crypto. It's actually fascinating. I wrote a book, and there's a whole chapter on cryptocurrency in my book. If anyone's interested, you can learn a lot about it there.
Oh, yeah, because like cryptocurrency is something that I'm kind of skeptic about, because like it goes up and down every couple of weeks, and it's generally it doesn't sound as stable as the normal currencies such as the US dollar or the euro. So I'm kind of on the fence about it. Like I want to maybe try it because it's a new thing and everyone seems to be doing it, but at the same time, if the price crashes or something bad happens, I don't want to be affected by it.
Sure. And you're absolutely right. It's very volatile. Stability is not the name of the game in any cryptocurrency. What I would say there's really two ways to, I mean, there's probably more, but the two main ways to look at it, is it an investment that a short-term type of thing where you're trying to make money off of it, where the volatility is going to have a big effect on you. You certainly wouldn't want to put your emergency fund or any money that needs to be there for a specific purpose in cryptocurrency for fear of losing it in case you needed it. So absolutely, I understand your skepticism. At the same time, there's another thought process out there, which I mentioned in the book, I touch on this as well, is that it's a completely different money system, or the proposition for it is. So some people are purchasing cryptocurrency, once again, specifically Bitcoin, because of what it's designed to do, not necessarily to make a quick buck, but because they believe that it's going to be the future of money. They believe that that's going to take over the US dollar as the world reserve currency someday, which we don't know. I mean, it's possible, absolutely, but it's also going to be a long time before that can actually happen. And so, yeah, I mean, I may not be giving you this is certainly not investment advice, but I'll tell you this. I mean, we definitely recommend that people look at it and try to understand what it is, and then make a decision. And we help people do that. Do they believe in that system? And if so, they should probably invest some money in crypto. But very, very few people are actually successful in day trading cryptocurrencies to try to make money in the short term.
Okay.
Yeah. That's great. So, hold on. Do you travel often?
Yes, absolutely. Love to travel. The pandemic has been a bit of an issue for that, but outside of the pandemic, and even during a little bit here domestically, we travel a lot.
Okay. Well, what places have you been to since then?
Oh man. Well, during the pandemic, we did a lot of traveling to places in the United States that we had never been to before. So there might be some small towns that you've never even heard of. But most recently we were out in Las Vegas, and we saw the Grand Canyon and a bunch of the national parks out in Utah, which is like totally different from where I live. Where I live, it's flat, it's hot, it's humid, there's palm trees and beaches. When we were out in the Grand Canyon, Utah area, which is, I mean, on the other side of the country, in a couple time zones over, we were in mountainous territory. It was freezing cold, but it was beautiful, and there was evergreen trees, and it's just a totally different world. So we did a lot of that most recently, but internationally we've been to quite a few places. We have not been to Australia. We have not been to Africa. We had a trip to Africa planned, but it was canceled because of the pandemic. But I've been a lot of places in Europe, Asia. I have family that lives in China, so we've been over there, out East Asia for numerous times. I've been to England, so I've been out y'all's way. I've been to most of the Nordic countries as well. I have heritage in Sweden and Norway, so we've been quite a few places.
Okay, that's interesting. Nordic heritage, that's very interesting. I like that.
Yep. I mean, my grandfather's cousin is still alive. He's 80 something years old and lives in Norway. And we were able to connect with them. I had never met him before, but we connected him about a year. Well, maybe it was a couple of years, probably almost 4 years ago, a couple of years before the pandemic. And we actually went over there, and we met him and his son and family. And they treated us like we grew up next door. I mean, they were so nice. And we had a chance to learn a little bit more. We got to see the family tree, which my grandmother, my great grandmother, and my great grandfather, one was from Norway and the other was from Stockholm, Sweden, actually. And during the war, she had emigrated over or left Stockholm to go to Norway, and that's how they met. So I have Norwegian and Swedish heritage.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. That's pretty great. What do you like about what you're doing right now?
I love the fact that I can impact people that I never would have touched before. And what I mean by that is, in my previous role, most of the work, we did good work. I'm not going to criticize myself. I mean, I'm willing to criticize myself. I guess in this case, it may not be applicable, but what we used to do is work directly with individuals and families, and we would help their lives be better. And I appreciated that, and I thought that was great. But now we have this exponential factor, because we have an opportunity to work with families who are doing their own good work across the world. And so I love the fact that I say that I can sit in my office in small town in South Florida in the United States, and I could say the little work that I do in front of my computer during the day, or the video that I shoot, or whatever work I do for our company, I know it could be affecting someone on the complete opposite side of the world, because one of the families that we're partnering with has a cause or a charity or an organization that they're supporting somewhere else. So that really, it's pretty cool. It makes the world seem really, really small.
Right. Fabulous. So, what other knowledge do you have in general?
Wow. So, man, I don't know. I have pretty limited knowledge, man. I mean, I work in this financial and generosity and philanthropic world. I know a little bit about sports. I don't know if you guys are into fantasy sports. So I don't know how big they are over by you, but I play fantasy sports because I love sports data. So I love competing with my friends in really fake sports, to be honest with you. Are you familiar with fantasy sports?
Oh yes, in fact, I do play
Yeah.
fantasy sports.
What
Oh,
is fantasy
cool.
sport? What is fantasy sport?
It's
You don't know what fantasy sports is?
No, because I play something called real sports.
I love it. I love it. Well, the quickest way I can put it is it's like you're a fake general manager of a sports team, right? So you take the players in real life, you draft them to your team, and you get points in a online, like, well, not even, well, it used to, before the internet existed, it wasn't even online, but now everything's online. It's even much easier to play now, and you get points for your fake team based on how the players do in real life.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's like a Football Manager 2022 and like those NFL games where you can like create your own teams out of like nothing and okay. Oh, yo, like in video games because that's the only one I know.
Well,
Yeah.
you're not playing the games. It's not like a simulated video game. It's their performance in real life. So let me put it in terms of soccer. So let's say you got Ronaldo on your team, right? And he scores a goal in the game, in a real game, like in real life one day. If he's on your team, if he's on your fantasy team, you're going to get a certain amount of points for your fantasy team. So it's a little mix of real life and fantasy and fake teams, right? So like in my league, so over here, for example, fantasy football, by far, American football is the biggest one. I mean, you can play fantasy hockey and basketball and baseball, but the biggest one by far is fantasy football. So during the football season in the fall and the early winter, I mean, that industry is crazy over here. Like, people are constantly looking for statistical updates, like how many touchdowns did my guy score? How many yards did he run for? I mean, it's very, 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 very big business because people are so into it.
Okay, I mean, I don't do that. I mean, the only thing I do is ride my bike. I don't do fantasy sports, but I mean, that sounds new. I never actually heard of it. Like when I heard fantasy sports, I thought play a video game like NFL 16 where you like manage your team. But okay, apparently it's life. All right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. So everything is basically simulated. It's all computer simulated, and the players in the game is somewhat realistic to how they perform in real life. So in this AI computer simulation of your team on this game, it really also impacts in the real world. So it's very cool, actually.
yeah, I mean, it's literally how they play in real life. It's the actual performance. So on a Sunday afternoon in America and all across the world, to be honest with you, in fact, I listened to a couple of fantasy football shows that are out of England. A couple of the people are there. A couple of the hosts are from there. People are sitting in front of the television watching their players play in real life and rooting them on and living and dying by how they perform in real life, because they know if their guy does well, they're going to win their game that week. And there's some people put a lot of money on this stuff too. Some people just do it for fun. Some people some people do it for a living. Not a lot, but some do.
Absolutely.
It's pretty crazy. Like, you can go. I mentioned I was in Las Vegas, about a couple months ago, and during the playoffs there, I mean, they have these contests where there's thousands of people that come to Vegas for the championship, and they're the fantasy football championship. It's pretty crazy. It's interesting. And like you were saying with the computer, it's so easy to do now. What back in the day in the 90s and 80s and earlier, you used to have to do all the statistical calculations yourself. Like whoever was in charge of the league would have to look up in the newspaper the next morning and do all the math. I can only imagine it must have been so annoying to be honest with you.
That's a big thing in America. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, that blew my mind.
Oh, I thought like I don't know, because I thought it was just something that kids do on like a football field, like a small football field. They just go out there, pretend like they are Messi or something, and just create a fake football team. But thing in America, okay, wow, American culture is extremely exquisite, I must say.
Oh yes, absolutely.
You could say we're nuts, or maybe you could say we're creative. I don't know what it is, but so a friend of mine just asked me to join a fantasy baseball league. So in a couple weeks, we're gonna they're from all over the place. They're I don't live near any of them, so we're all gonna hop on a computer, and there's software. There's Yahoo, there's CBS, there's ESPN. There's probably 15 different companies and websites out there that will do this for you. Well, I'll hop on the computer. We enter a draft room, and we're going to sit there for a couple hours, and we're going to draft real players to our fake teams.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, exquisite. That I appreciate you using that word instead of something else. So exquisite. That's probably the right way to describe it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what else do you have planned for this week?
For this week, I'll be working on the business, as I mentioned. I will be watching the NCAA basketball tournament. So I'm not a huge college or university basketball fan, but this month they call this March Madness over here. As you're noticing, it always reverts back to sports with me. So on Thursday, which is tomorrow, well, actually the past couple of days they've started, but they're opening round games that are not quite as important. But the NCAA, which is the National Collegiate Athletic Association over here, they have their basketball tournament starts, and it's called March Madness because there's like 30 games like a day for the next couple of days. It's pretty crazy. So if you were to go on the internet and search for that. So I will be spending some time tomorrow and Friday watching that amongst my work. I also I release my podcast on Thursdays as well, so that I'll be working on that today and tomorrow.
Great. So what was life for you growing up?
I had a fun childhood. My parents were very, very loving. I could not ask for more support. And I grew up mostly in South Florida here in this warm climate, also in a very diverse area. Fort Lauderdale, Miami, if you're familiar with this area of our country here, is very, very international. There's people from all over the world that come and move to this area. So I grew up in they would call it a melting pot. I mean, there was just all kinds of cultures and languages and food. So growing up for me was, easy to make friends, people all over the place. I mentioned before, I love the climate. I could be outside every month of the year. There was no cold weather. So I really had it made. I mean, to be honest with you, I had a great childhood.
Okay.
Can I ask him some things?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Let's
Sorry,
hear it.
I was quiet. I didn't want to interrupt anyone, but
That's cool.
So what weather is basically your repellent? Like the weather that repels me is tornadoes and super duper cold weather. I don't mind slightly cold weather, but what repels you?
From a weather perspective?
Yeah, what repels you from a certain location if you have to choose by the weather?
Oh, cold. Absolutely. And I mean like not even that cold. Like if it's below 60, it's uncomfortable for me. 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, I don't know, what is that Celsius? I can't do that math. I don't like it very, very cold at all.
Yeah.
My family's from New York, it gets pretty cold up there. It's probably a similar
That's
climate.
15.5 Celsius.
Yeah. My family's from New York, both my mom and my dad's side. So it's probably pretty similar climate to Manchester, the England. I don't know if all of you are from Manchester, but the England area, it's probably pretty similar. But
well,
It's
Yeah, in terms of temperature, yes, but we barely get any snowfall. In fact, the last time we had snowfall was like last month, and we were wanting to snow around December time during Christmas for like a white Christmas. But yeah, it's somewhat similar, the kind of climate.
Yeah. So to answer your question, if it hits 15.5 degrees Celsius, then I'm probably now I can deal with that for a short period of time. Don't get me wrong. We went on vacation and it was probably, 5 degrees Celsius where we were. If not, actually, no, it was definitely less than that because it was freezing. It was snowing the one day and like it stuck. So it was probably -5 and Celsius. And I can handle it for a short period of time, but I wouldn't want to make my permanent home somewhere that doesn't have that. Now we have hurricanes here, which I don't mind so much because I'm used to it. You can prepare for them as long as you have a house and a home and a building that was built after the early 90s. You probably have a pretty safe go at it. But we don't have a lot of tornadoes. I mean, we get rain a lot in the summer, but not horrible thunderstorms. If you live near the beach, you got to be worried about flooding, but we don't live too close to the beach. So really, it's honestly the cold is the main thing that worries me. We don't have earthquakes and any other natural disasters here. We're pretty good.
Okay, fabulous.
That was a great question, though. I've never got that one before.
Thank you. So, is what you're doing right now always been your dream job, or have you dreamt about doing another job when you were younger?
No, it definitely hasn't always been. It's my dream job now. I wouldn't imagine doing anything else now, but it wasn't when I was younger. When I was younger, I thought I was going to play sports, or I thought I was going to talk about them. I went to school because I played sports, and then I studied broadcasting while I was in school. And then after graduation, I actually worked in radio for a short period of time. And one thing led to another. I actually got recruited into the financial industry. So no, this is definitely not always my dream job. If you would ask me when I was 15 what I wanted to do, I definitely wouldn't have told you this.
Okay, interesting. What would be the one memory or the one experience you want to like erase from your brain?
One memory. Well, I mentioned my illness, but to be honest with you, that I don't want to erase that because I learned so much from that. So that's not it. It's probably this. You're probably going to think I'm stupid, but about 5 or 6 months ago, I had an issue with my ear, and I went into the clinic to get it looked at, and I experienced the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. And I've experienced some pain before, but the worst thing I ever felt was the lady stuck this water gun type of thing in my ear. She was supposed to be cleaning out my ear, and she pulled the trigger on this thing, and it must have hit my eardrum or something. And I screamed. I mean, I don't think I've ever screamed that loud. If I could forget that 5-second moment there, then I would gladly get rid of that from my memory.
Yes, it sounds terrible.
Absolutely. What was the weirdest nickname you were given?
The weirdest nickname?
Yeah.
Tongue. So my teammates in college called me Tongue for a period of time. Tongue, like the thing that you talk with inside your mouth.
Okay.
I don't know why, because I had a big tongue. I don't know. You can't. This is not a visual medium, so I can't show you. But yeah, that a tongue would be the one.
Okay. And that's all we have for this episode. It was great having you here, Bob, talking about your firm, your knowledge on cryptocurrencies, and pretty much everything else. This was pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, we touched a lot, man. This is we went all over the map. I love it. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, it was actually really great. I like that. And until next time, stay tuned for more.